Welcome back to Turkish series stars, the place where we unbox the mysteries you crave and spill the juiciest whispers from behind the velvet ropes. Buckle in, because today we're stepping straight into the whirlwind around Barış Baktas and Yağmur Yüksel. The title says it all, secrets finally surfacing, and a love that keeps catching even the most seasoned observers off guard. Yes, you heard right. We're peeling back the layers on the parts they never put on display, and we're tracing the arc of a romance that has stunned fans and skeptics alike. If you live for shock reveals, sudden twists, and love stories that feel like the closing scene of your favorite show, then you're exactly where you need to be. And before the tea gets too hot, a quick reminder, if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and tap the bell so Turkish series stars can keep you first in line for everything fresh. You won't want to miss what we have coming up next. Let's talk about Barış and Yağmur. For anyone new to the saga, Barış Baktas isn't just a familiar face, he's the magnet on set and the reason certain characters feel too real to be fiction. From intense drama to feather-light comedy, he slips into roles with the kind of ease that makes audiences forget they're watching a performance. Charismatic, focused, gifted with that calm, simmering intensity. He's the actor you look for in the opening credits because you know he'll deliver when the story demands heart. And then there's Yağmur Yüksel, the artist whose presence doesn't shout, it glows. She's the breath of something fresh that the industry didn't know it needed, sincere in expression, meticulous in craft, and magnetic in a way that feels quietly fearless. Her performances hold emotion without squeezing it dry, and when she speaks, you get the sense she's letting you in on a private note meant for the few who listen closely. Separate, they're captivating. Together, they're a spark in a powder room. The chemistry isn't just rumored, it's the kind you notice in the little things. How they lean in to hear each other over the noise, how a private smile slips through during a crowded appearance, how an offhand gesture carries more weight than the loudest declaration. Their outings, their backstage glances, even the timing of their posts, fans picked up on it all, and the speculation storm was immediate. But here's where it gets fascinating. Despite the spotlight hovering over their every move, Barış and Yağmur tightened the circle. Privacy wasn't an accident. It was a strategy. And in a world where every moment is another piece of content, choosing to keep something sacred is a statement louder than any press release. Remember how the early whispers landed? Nothing dramatic at first, just shadows at the edge of the frame, soft focus moments caught from too far away, and the kind of coy answers in interviews that leave more questions than clarity. Most people shrugged and moved on. After all, the rumor mill never sleeps. But then came the slip-ups that didn't feel like slip-ups at all, synchronized schedules, shared friends applauding the same projects, captions that rhymed but didn't match, and the occasional sighting after long nights of work. Bit by bit, the wall started to show its first hairline cracks. And once the light gets in, well, it doesn't easily forget the way. Here's where the secrets begin to unfold. We spoke to people who know people, we compared timelines and noted what wasn't said, and a clearer image emerged, not of tabloid fantasy, but of patience, intention, and a relationship built behind closed doors before it had any chance of being written about. What's striking isn't what's scandalous, it's what's quiet. The small routines. The mutual guardrails. The gentle refusals to overshare. Their pact wasn't about hiding, it was about choosing when to be seen. And when you watch the choices, the story writes itself. Before anything felt official, there were phases that looked contradictory from the outside. Days of distance that seemed deliberate, followed by moments that felt like a spotlight you couldn't dim if you tried. Maybe those gaps were professional tactics, or maybe they were just two people navigating a bigger picture than a single headline. Because when the connection clicked, you could see it in the way they stood a little taller around each other, in how they mirrored energy without even trying. Sometimes love announces itself with fireworks, other times it arrives like a secret melody only the two of them can hear, playing quietly under the noise of everything else. So what exactly are these so-called secrets? Not scandals, but anchors. The first is the origin story we only ever heard in fragments. There's talk of a meeting that wasn't supposed to be pivotal, two paths crossing at a work session that ran late, a conversation that outlived the call sheet, a shared sense of humor that turned into a shared rhythm. Maybe it was a project that asked for vulnerability, or a moment between takes that stretched into a trust neither of them expected. However it happened, it wasn't the instant flash, red carpet reveal. It was slow, steady, and soft enough to grow without breaking. Then there are the passions not put on display. Away from sets and spotlights, from scripts and cameras, there are rituals, old songs played in kitchens past midnight, a weekly ritual of coffee in places no one thinks to check, a habit of trading book recommendations, or the discipline of walks that go nowhere in particular. Maybe there are shared fears too, the ones you only say out loud when you know the other person will carry them with care. What sets them apart isn't perfection. It's the willingness to build something honest in a space where performance is the default mode. Of course, no couple, especially one that lives under constant attention, makes it through untouched by challenge. And this is where their bond seems to have weathered the tremors with unusual grace. Scheduling conflicts. Projects that pull them to different cities. The strain of managing a public that thinks it knows you better than you know yourself. But in the hardest stretches, the murmurs say they wrapped themselves tighter instead of slipping apart, clarifying boundaries, communicating with the kind of transparency that leaves no oxygen for doubt, and refusing to give their most private truths away for applause. That's the surprise we love most, their love isn't loud, it's resilient. What keeps catching people's breath is not some dramatic twist, it's endurance. It's the way their connection seems to have strengthened when the noise got loudest. At a time when public romances can burn bright and vanish like fireworks, theirs behaves like something built to last. Maybe it's the pace. Maybe it's the respect. Maybe it's the agreement that what belongs to them stays with them until they choose the moment to share. And when they do show us a glimpse, an unguarded glance, a subtle acknowledgement, a carefully timed collaboration, it lands like a confession you were waiting to hear. We have to talk about the career effect. For many public figures, pairing up can be a gamble, attention rises, expectations spike, and suddenly every move is measured against a myth. But with Barış and Yağmur, the tide seems to have lifted both ships. Their recent projects carry a charge that feels unmistakable, like the confidence you get when your personal life becomes a source of strength instead of stress. Reviews have highlighted renewed energy, audiences have tuned in with fiercer loyalty, and colleagues speak about a focus that sets the tone on every set they step onto. It's as if the privacy didn't silence them, it fueled them. Pull back and look at the bigger picture, and the story rests on three pillars: mystery, intention, and heart. Mystery, because they let curiosity bloom without feeding it too fast. Intention, because boundaries don't happen by accident. They're built, held, and defended with care. And heart, because what we see in flashes feels consistent with what their closest circle whispers: mutual pride, honest support, and an understanding that success tastes better when the person next to you understands exactly what it cost to earn it. Maybe the best part is that their bond doesn't look like a performance. It looks like a partnership in motion. Two careers unfolding side by side, two people showing up for each other in a way that feels calm, adult, and deeply rooted. They're not chasing a perfect image, they're building a private language. And even those who swore they'd never buy into celebrity romance find themselves re-watching those brief moments, the ones that can't be faked, the softened tone, the quiet grin that shows up uninvited, the way hands brush and don't flinch away. If we had to bottle the essence of what makes this story so irresistible, we'd say this: it feels real. It's not a fairy tale, but it's absolutely a love story. It respects the pace of real life, messy schedules, late nights, early call times, and the steady choice to show up anyway. It's anchored in mutual admiration, in the discipline of privacy, and in the art of knowing what to share and when. And that, more than any grand gesture, might be the reason it's lasted through the winds that could have blown it apart. So tell us, what surprised you most about Barış Baktas and Yağmur Yüksel? Was it the way they guarded the beginning like something sacred? The steady way they found balance in the middle of the chaos? Or the unmistakable glow that shows up in their work when they're at their most in sync? Drop your thoughts below, because Turkish series Stars is where your theories spark our next deep dive. We read everything, we talk back, and we love how this community notices the threads others miss. Before we go, one more thing that matters. If this deep dive had you leaning in, if it made you feel closer to the heart of their story, give this video a like. Share it with that friend who swears they don't care about celebrity romances but never misses an update. And if today is your first time here, welcome, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next reveal, the next analysis, the next surprise. Because if there's one thing we've learned watching Barış and Yağmur, it's that the best parts are never announced, they're felt. And here at Turkish Series Stars, we'll be right there with you when the next chapter opens. Until the next episode, keep your hearts open, your eyes sharp, and your expectations high. We'll be back with more layers peeled, more questions asked, and more moments that make you believe that even in a world built on spectacle, real love can still find its way to the center of the stage, quietly, steadily, and exactly when it's meant to be.